Yo, guys, what up, what up, man? Few days until it all pops off. Few days until it all pops off. Me and my brother's sister, we've been going back and forth and so forth. And I get it's a presidential election and a political election, but it's been such a crazy year, such a mad year that it's almost apt that this is the footnote of what is, for me personally anyway, one of the craziest years, no, the craziest year of my life. Um, and the fascinating thing about this is that because there is so much at stake for this presidency and because this could have such a massive knock-on effect in the world and so forth, the eyes of the world are there on Tuesday nights. And let me just start off with my thought process and how I have changed since the last few days. I put up a vid and I said Biden will win in a landslide. And my thinking was early voter turnout. I've been a huge amount of voters because my brother sent me this article on WhatsApp saying, man, this because he was saying to me that this is like they said on BBC that this is the highest ever voter turnout that they've ever seen. So I was, doing one plus one. So okay, highest ever early voter turnout but before. There have never been these amounts of people who have voted this early before in history. So my logic was these guys must be coming in based off an anger as to the presidency of Trump. And this is just me using Twitter and so forth. So I was like, okay, yeah, so maybe it's just because, yeah. So I was like, Biden has to win in a landslide because so many people are just so fed up. They are voting early in order to get this guy out of there. But then I started looking at news. I started looking at different images. And Trump's, not only his rallies, but how people are coming through in different states. I just saw something. Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills. Like, look, Beverly Hills, that's the mecca of Hollywood. So that is like the holy grail of the liberal left-wing movement and everything. And there was a massive, well, not massive, but there was a sizable congregation of pro-Trump supporters in Beverly Hills. So the fact that you have those guys in Beverly Hills is crazy. So as I was watching this, I was like, so will Biden still win? And that is just why Tuesday is so crazy, because I generally don't know who will win. And from one side, I'm thinking Biden wins based on, I think, the overwhelming amount of people who are fed up with Trump. And I was even speaking to my uncle, who is a Republican. Like, he's a Republican. He lives in Atlanta. And he even said, I know I'm a conservative and everything, but now I don't think I'm going to roll with this dude. Trump has to go out. So it's so wild. It can go either way. So before we even go into details as to the permutations, what the effects could be, different states, who could gain within different states, and also you guys need to tell me about what are the key states, because I sort of remember the key states from 4 years ago, but just to be reminded of which states should we really be looking at specifically as to who would win those. So, Hitman, first of all, bro, where are you, generally speaking, where are you leading? Are you leading towards Biden, Trump? Who do you think takes this on Tuesday?
The truth is that the counts are going to basically happen. I mean, is after that. So, I mean, they're going to take place. I mean, these counts could take days, could take weeks afterwards, and because of that, I mean, I think this is crazy. This is bold, and I could be wrong, but I think Biden's going to take this. I don't think he's going to take this by a large margin, but I think he'll take this by a very, very thin margin.
So if, let's say, he takes it by a thin margin, do you believe Trump will oppose it, dispute it, and he will refuse to step down?
I mean, he'll have no other choice. Either that or the fucking feds take his ass off take his ass, knock him a few pegs.
So you're thinking, okay, I mean, I'll come to why you think that specifically. So to Tony, how do you think this is going to go down on Tuesday? Where are you leading? How do you think it's going to sort of unfold?
I honestly think that it's going to be a toss up. To Hitman's point, I think that whoever wins is not going to be by a large margin. I think that in terms of key states, I think it's almost falling. Like I think one, I'm tired of this false narrative that it's all just based on the popular vote. And I think that once we get a good grasp on the power of the Electoral College and what they actually contribute versus the popular vote, then we get a better understanding. But until then, we'll never really fully get a sense of how this is all determined in the end. The only thing that I can really predict is that at the end of the day, despite whoever wins, I feel like there's going to be an outcry. There's going to be a protest because each side feels so strongly about their candidate.
That's a great jump off point, and like that's where I want to go to because basically I was watching a Dr. Umar video, and then Dr. Umar was saying that basically, look, man, arm yourselves. He said, black people arm yourselves because it's going to go down on Tuesday. Because and that is why the world is so intrigued by Tuesdays. It's not about who wins, it's really about who loses and how do they react. Because I remember they were interviewing I can't remember what states it was, pro-Trump supporter and everything. And then the guy was just he basically made reference to that he's got like a gun. And then if things go a bit crazy and the right guy doesn't win, he's prepared to pretty much use his weapon and so forth. Because my thing is this: if Biden wins, based on the kind of support that Trump has, and we'll get into Trump into detail. But I was watching the Trump speech, Michigan rally today, and the kind of intensity of his fans, the almost cult-like emotion that his supporters have is deep. So, and if he was to lose, I'm not even sure how these guys would feel because for me, this has been like 4 years of like, my God, we never knew we could have a guy that is so much of this straight talker. On the other side, if Trump wins, based off the media against him, based off the whole of Hollywood, Twitter, Facebook, social media, the cool crew, all that kind of stuff, I can only imagine how people on the left will react. Like, because I think there are people there that are saying, like, you know what, we can't have 4 more years of this dude. This guy who we believe is this smug, arrogant, crazy dude. So, look, man, that's the things that I just want to know what I'm fearful of. Because, I've got guys in America. What I'm fearful of is what the fallout could potentially be. So, Hitman, do you believe there could be an all-out civil war come Tuesday, despite whoever wins?
I don't think there will be an all-out civil war. I think we're being a little dramatic there. But I'm gonna say this, and I wish somebody was I wish there were like people who represent both sides like clearly, because I don't represent the left or the right. As a person that I'm left leaning in some of the things I do, but I'm not a leftist or a liberal.
No. But wait. But let me ask. So, if let's say Trump wins, you don't think that those very ultra left people will just go crazy and insane, and just pretty much just go mad?
So here's my thing: if Trump wins, that's what I think is gonna happen. I think some motherfuckers are gonna burn some shit down. And I'm just gonna straight up say it. I think some motherfuckers are gonna burn some shit. Some dudes from the left are gonna burn some shit down. And if not, and if they aren't, I think somebody's going to try to incite them to burn some shit down.
But boy, burn what's down? I mean, just burn random buildings down and just have like a full-on riot, or burn stuff around the White House? Like, what specifically?
It could be. It could be a bit of both. It could be people burning random shit down, or burning stuff around the White House. People are getting nuts. I also think that people might die on election day.
See, and so what if Biden wins then? What do you think the reaction of Trump supporters will be? What do you think that they would do?
I think Trump supporters will just like really like yell and complain on the fucking internet about how bad the US is going to be, the state how terrible like the state of the US is going to be. It'll be like when like how the right reacted when fucking Obama won the election.
Mm.
There's going to be a lot of bitching on their end and basically say how we're basically becoming like the Soviet shit.
Okay,
Like,
so you don't believe that Trump supporters will have a full-on right and start attacking people on the streets and just have a full-on war?
I don't think they will. I mean, like as much as I'm against Trump, I mean, I look at like some of the patterns on how some things are done. And that's why I'm saying I would rather like I wish there was somebody here who was more supportive of the left, so that they could give a perspective as well. Because what I'm saying is not going to be exactly what a person with the left would possibly agree with, or what Tony would say. And what I'm getting at though is from my observations, that's what I think could possibly happen. If Trump wins, that there could be civil unrest. And if Trump doesn't, and if Biden wins, I don't think there will be civil unrest. I mean, there may be some now. I think there could be some like I think there will be now. Let me take step back. I think there could be violence, but I don't think that there will be as much violence as there would be if Trump won. I'll just phrase it that way.
Okay, so basically, yeah, so basically, you think that there's going to be more violence if Trump was to win?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, Tony, what about you? How do you think both sides would react if either side was to lose? So, how do you think Trump supporters will react? How do you think the left would react?
So, what I'll say is, I don't believe that it would be an outright civil war because, from my perspective, I think that Trump and Biden both serve a similar task, right? Making white America feel comfortable on either side, whether it's a closeted racist or a racist that's more out or more overt, rather. I think that in general, the vote for Republican and Democrat is very split with white communities and Latino communities. So if there was any type of violence, I think that it would be more on a racial line than it would be white attacking white solely based off of political stance. Um, and I think what's even more crazy to me about all of this is when I submitted my vote, I was also voting for a senator. I was also voting for the House. And like I've stated before, I think that this presidential election, or Trump in general, his character in general, overshadows Congress and their responsibility to the American people and how they even handle the purse, right? Like Trump can't just outright create a war or change any fiduciary policy without Congress actually doing anything. And that is on the ballot this go around. And that is a conversation that is not being had at all because people are so concerned about this one presidency. And not that it is not important, but at the same time, there are so many other things. And there are these congressmen and congresswomen who are just sliding under the radar, like a Nancy Pelosi, who is competing, to continue to have her slot. And I think that that's where people should be more concerned or more around the world pressed about the end result at the end of the day.
No, but I mean, but I think that again, this goes back to because again, I do some part-time work for like a TV thing, just like a few days a month. And like whenever like I go in there, like the fact is that the focus is always on Trump. Like Trump for me is a reporter's dream. Because as much as, you see, the thing about it is, as much as maybe the media or people want to get rid of a Trump, at the same time, they need a Trump because Trump gives you so much traction and he gives you so much coverage. And the amount of material that he's provided for news stations, for reporters, and for writers has been golden. you know, has been totally golden. So Tony, so in your view, you don't believe that if Trump was to win, that there wouldn't be an extremely violent, aggressive reaction from Democratic supporters or anti-Trump people.
I think the way that we characterize Trump supporters as like this cult-like fixture is similar to Democrats in the Black society. I don't think that white Democrats are as committed as Black Democrats are. So again, if there was to be something quote unquote similar to an outright civil war type thing, I think that it would be more along racial lines. Because again, what's often pointed out in many of the debates, which was part of my problem with there not being a Black moderator, was there was always this topic brought up about, oh, the Black voter and, the disenfranchised and all of that, but yet there was no representation. There was just the people of color, I guess Hispanic lady the last go around, and I think that one, it's sort of to pit like whatever the result is onto Black people as if we are not 85 to 90% Democrats to begin with. And two, again, it takes off the responsibility of the white voter who, again, is split down the line between Democrat and Republican. And once all of this is said and done, I don't think that they are held to the fire like minority voters. So I think that when Trump voters, if they're upset, they're going to go after minorities because the media feeds into that as well without focusing in on white versus white voters.
All right, so I want to now take us into the mind of an undecided, like a guy who is independent and is going back and forth, trying to decide. Because I think if you go back to the whole Hillary Trump thing, what shocked me the most was the amount of women who hated Hillary. Yes, she won the popular vote, but I think what the Democrats and Hillary's campaign did not really account for was the lack of overwhelming female support. Hence why I thought that she would win easily, because I thought that she would have a great support from women. So my thing is, if you're undecided and you're now looking at both of these kinds, because for me, I think these are two bricks. These are two brick candidates that they now have. So it's almost because for a Biden, you're like, guy can't really talk properly. He's a politician. He's a career politician. And what if you didn't really enjoy Obama's reign? So if you didn't enjoy Obama's reign, you're saying, well, this guy was the VP for Obama, so why would you go for him? And for Trump, maybe you're just fed up with his brazen attitude or how he's just not really been able to get a handle of the coronavirus and so forth. So if, let's say, going into Tuesday, you're undecided, come to Hitman Fest, who do you think an undecided guy is going to lean towards, a Biden or a Trump, even if both of them are? So who do you think they'll be leaning towards more, Hitman?
And undecided, it really depends on what their concerns are. So I mean, like you got to talk about the big points there. So the undecided is going to be, as you say, it's not going to be. I could tell you from a lot of cases, a lot of Black people are not going to be undecided. They're already going to be set in place. It's going to be somebody who's white, who's from a place that's probably not affected that much. But you've got to break it down. So you're talking someone who has concerns with the coronavirus, someone who has concerns about
healthcare, the economy, jobs. Yeah.
Jobs. I mean, it's going to be, and it's actually going to be, you have to look at the conflict overall. So coronavirus is going to, the big point of conflict there was health versus economy. So which one are you going to be more concerned about? Are you going to be concerned more about your money, or are you going to be concerned more about your health? I mean, the other one is also going to be civil rights. Civil rights is a big one. And that's going to be, and there's been a lot of dichotomies, basically two-sided choices on that. And people are going to say, do I weigh more do I care more about civil rights or do I care more about quote unquote law and order, air quotes? And it's going to go into, and it's going to basically break down those. And if you're leaning more towards one side than the other, that's where somebody is going to end up voting for that when it comes to an undecided. Then it's also going to come down to the individual candidates themselves, like how people see this candidate. Is this candidate responsible? I mean, there's other things that are coming in. Like, I mean, all the various like scandals that Trump's had, but at the same time, all the various scandals that
Biden has. Yeah,
and that's what a lot of stuff. Like, I mean, the big ones recently has been the Hunter Biden scandal, the one where it's basically they found his laptop and they basically found the dude's a piece of shit. And the other thing too is that a lot of cases, people will look beyond that because a lot of these guys, they're very similar in a lot of those places. And they'll say to themselves, okay, who am I going to choose now? And they'll basically say, hey, they'll vote for the policies and not the candidate.
That was exactly where I wanted to go. Like, I think for people, I think it's either or, the candidates or the policy. And I think a lot of people love the bells and the whistles, which is where a debate is so important, because then you get, oh no, I like this guy. Because again, it's so funny. Actually, I'll probably reference to it is that, do you know Trump is actually really, really popular in Nigeria? And it makes sense why Trump would be so popular in Nigeria. Because Nigerians, I would say like Trump, he's like a chief, like a Nigerian chief. It makes sense why Nigerians would sort of find Trump so popular based on his personality, not his policies, but just his persona and his character and how he carries himself. It is something that Nigerians would like. So if it's really about the person, do you go with because really Biden, you've seen this guy before. This guy, he's on a conveyor belt. You've seen him before. Trump, this is something completely new. But with Trump, if you're with his character, you have to be with his policy. You can't, because see, you can be with Biden's character and sort of, his policies, okay, I can sort of do, okay, abortion, blah, blah, blah. But he's so well spoken, he's so cool and everything, I can go with him. But with Trump, it's a double package, man. So let me bring in LTA in here, man. So where do you, so Biden, Trump, where are you leaning? Where do you think this is going to go, Biden or Trump, on Tuesday, based on just what you're feeling in America, or do you feel like how people are saying it's going to be it's sort of 50-50? Because I said Biden in a landslide, but now I'm not sure.
I think based on the voter turnout, it's looking like it's going to be Biden, because usually if you look at usually like right-wing policies, they usually try to fight to get to limit the amount of voting. Usually, if it's a big turnout, it's usually going to be more liberal. And I think that's Biden, because a lot of people, they're not really that invested in Joe Biden as a candidate, but more invested in simply just getting rid of Trump. Like 2 days ago, we had 100,000 confirmed cases of COVID in one day. And Trump is still like holding rallies. And when it first started, he says it was a hoax. It's pretty much like Trump is so extremely like horrendous at his job that like I don't think it's going to be close. But there's certain areas of America that like no chance there's no chance he loses. Like I'm in Mississippi right now. Mississippi has voted Republican president, and a Republican candidate has won Mississippi every year since 1975. So It could be, I can be the Republican candidate for Mississippi and I'm going to win. There's certain areas that it don't matter what happens. Yeah. But I think the areas that it does matter, I feel like even if it just has to be close in those areas, because Biden's like easily going to win New York, California, those places. He just has to come close in Pennsylvania, come close in Ohio, just and I think he'll win it pretty easily. I think so.
Okay. MB. So Trump, Biden, Tuesday. Where are you leaning towards? Who do you think will win, rather than who do you want to? Who do you think will win based on just the temperature of things and how things are looking?
I feel like Biden's going to win the popular vote like by a lot, like a lot. But it ain't going to matter. What's going to happen is Trump's going to lose the popular vote. He's probably going to win the electoral college again. And that's what's going to happen. If that doesn't happen, what's going to end up happening, like the next thing that makes sense to me, is that Trump loses all the way, but then he's going to call the election bullshit, and he's going to say that he's going to stay in power until a real election can be held, and then he's going to push for the fact that there cannot be any real election because there's too much bias. So he's going to suspend elections.
The feds will pull him out of the fucking seat if he does that.
I mean, I hear you saying that.
Does he have the power to do that? I mean, basically, does he have, if it is verified of these are the votes, Biden wins, then therefore his power as president ceases to exist?
He can't.
So does he still have the power to sort of still call the elections false?
But he can't. He can't. If he makes enough people question the validity of the votes don't matter. He doesn't have to beat the guy. He has to create enough doubt that even if the guy beats him, it won't matter. For the same reason everyone keeps saying, no, that won't happen. No, that won't happen. Bro, when in your lifetime has a political candidate been able to say the shit or do the shit that this man has done and it not ruin their career? Like, he says and does things that he should have been pulled out of office for already. And he's still there. So what makes you think that this is going to change anything? He's got enough people behind him in positions of power. He strategically put these people there so that even if there is public outcry, it won't matter.
Tony, thoughts on that? Like, if Biden was to win, do you see a scenario, and Trump said this in the debate, do you see a scenario where Trump uses the Supreme Court, whatever tools he has, to stay in power and call the elections invalid?
Well, first, I want to address something that MB said as far as no politician being able to say some of the things that Trump has been able to say and still have a career. I think that we as Americans have amnesia. I think for the majority of American history, there have been plenty of politicians who have said more outwardly racial things, even on the Supreme Court, which is like written in record. And we just fail to acknowledge that. And I think that what Trump has been able to do is really hone in on creating this sense that Democratic Party is the establishment and making it seem like the Republicans are the minority, because now, again, voters who are primarily for Trump are sort of like in the shadows and hiding. And I think that that we as people, when we have these discussions, we sort of feed into that without like having open and honest discourse about, our different political views. But in terms of Trump staying in office, if he were to lose, I don't doubt that he would possibly, call for a recount. I mean, that happened with Hillary and Trump the first time in 2016. Again, we have amnesia and we forget that the Electoral College voted for a second time, I believe, in December after the elections, just to verify all of those numbers as well. And I think that there were individual states that did recounts as well. So as far as him staying in office, I doubt that he would embarrass America to that extent. I don't think that he's that pressed because he has a lot of money either way. And yeah, again, I think that people give him more power than what he actually has. I don't think that he can be both stupid and conniving as we create him out to be.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in and talk about something. This is something I actually saw another YouTuber talk about. Okay. It's a term called Trumpism, and I mean, people have heard this before. Really, you're not trying to defeat the man. You're trying to defeat what he's left behind. And it's kind of a state of mind that's pretty much. And I know people some of the people on the left say this shit is TDS or whatever the fuck. Like TDS basically being Trump is basically whatever, but it's a saying that's a syndrome. But pretty much it's a style. It's basically a style of far right conservatism that's taking place. And you pulled it up, yeah. And a lot of it's basically isolationism. It's also going to a lot of things that a lot of people in xenophobia, like going into a lot of things that people have not really talked about. Because one talking point I want to bring up too is that I've been talking with a couple people about this, but one big one is actually changing birthright citizenship. A lot of people haven't talked about that, but changing birthright citizenship.
So is this because I think it's similar to what Thatcher did in the UK? So is this a case of where even if you're born on the soil, you're not automatically a citizen?
Yeah, but it's going to be. But there's more to that, though. It's not going to be. This won't affect and this will affect Black people if they get what they want. This will affect Black people, but it won't affect your run-of-the-mill Black person. What this will affect, though, is any Black person with a criminal record, any Black person who's a felon, any Black person who is. This not just Black people. This will affect Hispanics. This will affect Asians. This will affect people who are of color. They could basically come up with reasons to basically deport you from the country. I know that this sounds like conspiracy theory type shit, but I mean it's very close. It's very close to what could really happen.
So you're saying that is something that could happen if Trump stays in power, or
It's what he's pushing for. He's pushed for it several times to the point where people were like, "Bro, you talk mad crazy about immigrants, and you're married to one. You talk about chain immigration, and your wife's parents are here because of her, because she married you. So how are you popping shit about the rest of us when you're living it?" But that's because the rules don't apply to those with the rules that apply to the common man don't apply to those with wealth and power. And to an earlier point that Tony made, it's not amnesia. Here's the thing. What I said was I haven't seen a politician who says the things that he does and it doesn't wreck their career. I'm not saying politicians haven't lost their careers behind it. What I'm saying is there's a difference between saying something and it's a misstep, like, oh no, this is the end of, and this motherfucker doubles down. He doesn't just say, I want to ban Muslims, which would have destroyed someone's career before. He says, I want to destroy Muslims. Yeah, I said it, and here's why. And people are like, oh, okay, first there's shock, then there's, oh, well, that's just Trump. And then it goes away.
No, see, Tony, you have to realize this is that 100%. Politicians have said some of the craziest things before, but you have to accept that there has never been a president in American history like Trump. There just has never been. And there has never been a president with the kind of support he has in the history of America because you have to think about this. He's not a politician. He's an opportunist.
He's an asshole from Queens.
And he found a gap in the market. So because let's just keep it real, Trump doesn't respect most of these MAGA guys. Of course he doesn't. But Trump is like, these guys need something, and I'm plugging a hole for what these guys need, because he is a populist president. It is hysteria, and it is something that you've never really seen before. See, the Obama thing was about him being black, so that was beyond Obama. This thing with Trump is it's what. Because Trump was a Democrat before and everything, so no one even knows what he even really believes in. So, but the persona that he's created is what people buy into, and that persona is so important. They need it so much. He can say anything he wants, and they'll still support him because they need someone to say it as it is and just say things straight. Like he said it straight. In a candidate that, look, we can't allow these people with low IQs to enter this country. So, at the first, I'm like, wow, this guy is saying this stuff. Like, what the heck? So yes, others have said it, but MB is right that they would never get away with it with the same way that Trump has, because there's never been a president like Trump before. Never has been. LTA.
There have been presidents similar to him. I mean, not to the level as him. I mean, you got to think Ronald Reagan, but Ronald Reagan is nowhere near as extreme as fucking Trump has been.
No. Trump is just, he's taken to the next level. So
And-
LTA, the question. So if Biden was to win, do you believe Trump would still try and hold on to power, or he'd be like, it is what it is? He may moan on Twitter, but he'll accept the L.
Before I answer that question, I just want to address the previous point about presidents in the past. Of course, presidents in the past would have said way more incendiary, like disrespectful comments, racist comments, but it's simply about the time period. A politician in 2020 is not getting away with saying the thing Trump says or doing things that politicians of the past did. It's like we can talk about the past, but the past was worse. You know, there's things that Lyndon B. Johnson said that cannot ever be said again. You know, so that's how I look at it. It's for this time period, he is as reckless as it gets. And with reference to would he step down, I think for sure he would. I'm not even sure Trump wants to be some dictator forever. I think Trump's lane is set, right? He can now make a lot of money because he's had beef with Fox News and CNN. He can do his own news station.
Podcasts.
He can rival someone like Jeff Bezos in creating his own like media empire, where like Jeff Bezos has the Washington Post. Trump can have his own newspaper, to have his own news, his own podcast, his own television network. Trump's set in that the money will keep on flowing, because Trump losing is not what will hurt him. It's Trump quitting. If Trump goes down on his swords, his followers will always ride with him. And if he goes down and says this election was stole or some conspiracy theory along those lines, it'll look like he never lost and he'll be just as fine. So he just has to appear as though he wants to win. He just has to appear as though like he's fighting for this next election, and his people will be completely in line, in lockstep. My last point, I went into Books A Million a couple of days ago, and I went into Books A Million, and I saw about 5 different books by people who were within the Trump administration. Like the Sean Spicer has a book, the Huckabee woman has a book, all of them, and they were there for like a couple months, maybe a year at a time, and they all have books that are selling off the shelves. If Trump comes out and is like, I'm gonna tell all about everyone and everything, he's gonna walk into $1 billion for real. So I think Trump's motivation is money and influence, and he has the influence and he has the protection for the rest of his life by the Secret Service. So he's gonna say whatever he wants and get as much money as he wants, for sure. This money is the main motivation.
Yeah.
And I think he has the influence. That's
it.
I want to jump.
Wait. Before you go, money and his ego.
Influence, yeah.
This is Trump's greatest victory. Because again, if you look at his life story, I watched it on Netflix, you were always second fiddle to your dad. And you never really lived up to what your dad did and everything. The fact that he was able to win this presidency against odds, because nobody thought he would win, this is his personal victory. And for his ego, the fact that everything I tweet, why doesn't he use the US president's Twitter account? He uses his personal Twitter account, which means that when he leaves office, he takes all those followers with him. Hitman.
Okay. And I want you to pull up that comment from Ashak, which says Trump will win the election because of silent majority, because I'm going to highlight that one. Because here's the deal. And this is what some like Trump supporters need to realize. All those guys were saying that shit that last election. I mean, like, you guys are the noisy ones now. You guys are the noisy minority now. But the truth is that there's a ton of people out there that fucking hate Trump, and don't underestimate those who hate Trump. And this is basically a call out to all of them. And if he loses the electoral votes, you will see it. You will see what happens. The whole thing is that what that's going to show is that's going to show a rejection of Trumpism.
No. But my thing though is that because again, on one hand, it's like, hey, I voted for Trump because this guy was different politician. These 4 years looks a bit dodgy. Coronavirus looks a bit dodgy. But what if it's the same thing again? Of like, there's always like that fear thing. It's almost like with the whole Bush John Kerry thing. I thought John Kerry was easily going to destroy Bush, but then guys were like, okay, but suddenly they went to vote for Bush. So it could be the same thing where guys are like, okay, Trump is bad, he's evil, it's not just this thing, he's a horrible person, blah blah, all these memes. But you're like, can Biden really do I want a country where our economy is shut down, the businesses are shut down, you allow abortions, the borders are open, and so forth? I'm like, do you really want that? So you'd be like, what, Trump? Okay, I just think that he may really put us on the streets and narrow, and I'm afraid of changing this tax too much, and that silent majority may still exist. Of like, you don't want to say it in public because, as people have said, they said they've lost friends over saying who they want to vote for. So guys are like,
I'm gonna jump in here now. This is where and he pulled up another comment here too. Pull up his second comment about Hillary Clinton because that one's funny. It's the one at the very bottom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean the thing
polls are BS. Polls are BS, man.
No, but Hillary won the popular vote by like fucking 4 million votes or something like that. It's not like she won by a small margin. That's equivalent of half of New York City voting for her over Trump. So it's like it's like she didn't lose by a small margin. The American people, those who voted, because I think it was something like a quarter of our population voted last time, right? Everyone else was like, well, fuck this. So
record low voter turnout, man.
Yes, record low. So of the people who voted, and mind you, 3/4 of the population sat this one out like, nah, I'm not even in it, right? Of the people that voted, he still lost by 4 million fucking human beings, 4 million individual votes. The American people, using that 1/4 of the population as a sample size, the American people voted for Hillary. Like the electors in some cases voted against the people in their states to vote for him because of their personal feelings. So I mean, it's not. Go ahead.
No, but on that point, then, because again, which is why we get to the whole electoral college, and which is why I need you guys to sort of educate me on this. So basically, as it's not one man, one vote. So we get that, which I find that weird, but it is what it is. So basically, what are these states that hold the key power for you pretty much getting to whatever that's, is it 278, 300 or whatever it is? 270.
Yeah, it's Texas, it's Pennsylvania, I think
Wisconsin,
Florida. Yeah, Florida. Especially Florida.
And those backwater fucking hillbillies hold the rest of us, basically at gunpoint every 4 years because of some outdated system that was created just because the country was really big when the United States started. For the technology, it was a big country. It took months to get information from one side to the other, right? So they have the Electoral College as one part of the reason, for that was to give a good enough idea of how many people in that local territory were going to vote a certain way, and then that person votes with the interest of those people, right? The problem is that the people that live in these states now, they're not necessarily the best educated, the best of us, I should say, right? Trump scores highly with them because they're the difference between going to a movie that you have to pay attention to and going to a movie that you just kind of shut your brain off like a Fast and Furious movie. Trump is the Fast and Furious movie, right? People don't want politics. They don't really care about the issues. They want to be entertained. They want something that they can read in a fucking headline. He gives that to them. A politician that they can actually get down to the nitty gritty of here's the problem, here's how to solve it. That goes over the head or the attention span of 3/4 of the people.
But MB, but so to be fair, and I want to bring in Tony in after this because I think he wants to talk. Yes, they like, as I said, like the bells and whistles, but let's be real. Trump has very specific things that he wants to do. They may be crazy things, mad things, but these guys are coming in, rapists, criminals, and so forth. We're going to close these borders down. I ain't shutting down the economy. We are keeping open. There's this virus. It ain't that, but we can lose a few lives. We cannot shut down the economy. So there are certain things that he is saying that is music to the ears of some people.
Because it's white fear. Because he stokes white fear. Where's the migrant caravan? Anybody seen it? That shit disappeared. And you know what? He built Hitman. He built like 10 miles of actual wall in 4 years, right? Like the rest of it was a rehab project, but he actually only built 10 miles of wall. Mexico didn't pay for it. We paid for it. Some of his friends got arrested for scams where they were taking money that people were giving in to pay for it. He stokes the fear of white. Like right now, he's trying to say, "Hey, white suburbia, you don't want Section 8 housing moving in down the road from you. I can keep that from happening. I stopped it. I'm protecting you." You know.
Okay. So let me bring in Tony in here. So Tony, I mean, is Trump really just a guy that's no real policies? People are really just voting based on just the guy, or does he have this? So where do you sit on what MB just said?
I think in general that Biden is running off of a moralistic standpoint versus straight out policy. It's just opposing anything that Trump says or does without really going into true explanation. And I think that's part of the frustration for I want to say over 3 million people who don't vote in any election, as well as those who are still undecided. And I think for those people, they might sort of see this similar to me, that this whole idea that Trump is just this anomaly, or that, to LTA's point, that, hey, well, it's 2020, it's the times, like, how can he say this at this point in time as if Black people are still not at the bottom of everything, as if, minorities are not still struggling and asking for things, similar to what Ice Cube was trying to point out. I think, even with his contract to Black America, like, I feel like most of the things that he was asking, those provisions are already set in tone for regular citizens. The oversight of, loans being, accurate and being dispersed out to people, like, there are already those organizations within Congress, but we are just not receiving it, no matter whether it's a Black face in office or not. And again, this idea that in 2020 that Trump is this anomaly, as if, like, Kemp in Georgia, for instance, won the governorship over Stacey Abrams, as if he was not overseeing the voting structure in Georgia, but nobody said anything. Even the Democrats, there's some sort of complicity with all of it. And I think that was some of the disturbance, even with people, how they viewed Hillary, because a lot of these things, like even now, like with the SCOTUS who was just appointed, Democrats had to vote on her. And there's all this talk and rhetoric about, oh, we're going to push back. Oh, you have to fear her because, abortion rights and this and that. And then she still gets in. And I think the problem is with people who are disenfranchised or disconcerned about this political election, is that they feel time after time, Democrats cry over and over about how bad the Republicans are. But yet Republicans like Trump still get in and get exactly what they say that they're going to come in and do. And it's not even just Kemp, it's Mitch McConnell, who's been there forever, saying the same exact racist type things, and nobody says anything. But because Trump is in the highest position, we're like, oh, this is crazy. He shouldn't be able to do this, as if, again, Congress is not holding the purse that allows the president to operate within the manner that he does operate.
People are saying stuff, though. It's just that people are saying stuff, though, even locally. It's just a matter of you have it's the example of, if you have a politician who's spouting racist shit in the middle of Mississippi, and the people there don't have a problem with what he's saying, what that person is saying is not going to matter. So, I mean, I could raise my hand and say, hey, what you said, that was some wild shit. What you said, you can't talk that way anymore. And then someone in the audience will say, sit down, buddy, and let him talk, because this is what they want to hear. Don't forget, we're the minority. The only reason why Trump is getting heat is because selling that heat is profitable to the mainstream media. But they don't care about some of these backwater, like, senators from Podunk. They don't give a shit about that. but they will care about, like, locally it makes news, but it doesn't always make international news. But that doesn't mean that there aren't brothers and sisters on the ground locally trying to fight it. It just means that you're not aware of it.
So, okay, I need to bring this up because thank you, Tony, for reminding me about this. I need to bring this up. Let me just put in a timestamp. Lil Wayne.
Meh.
Wheezy.
Roland Martin took his ass down hard on his show the other day.
But I want.
Rightfully.
I got some stuff on that.
Okay, see, here's my thing. I want everybody to give their thoughts on this. And my thoughts on this is very simple. Very simple. He's a rapper who's rich. Full stop. Full stop. So my thing here is this: is that I go into, and I want to talk about Ice Cube afterwards, but I want to just address Lil Wayne first because the Ice Cube one is a bit more complex. But let's just deal with Wheezy now. So Lil Wayne says he endorses Trump, the Platform Plan, and so forth, and now people are like, "Oh man, Lil Wayne, who could you look?" So typical of this guy, blah 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 blah. And my thing is that, first of all, why have rappers now been designated as these black leaders who should have a moral compass and a moral responsibility to, be the guys at the forefront for African Americans? Rappers? And Lil Wayne has been a dude who he does him. So my thing is, I don't understand where the rage comes from. Because from Lil Wayne's point of view, Trump loves guys like Lil Wayne. Let's keep it real. Trump has no respect for Lil Wayne. He has no respect. Now, he may respect that, this guy actually has money, hence why he's in the same room as him. But when Trump was with Mike Tyson, when Trump was with the rappers and everything back in the day, he didn't respect these guys. But Trump is one of those guys where he'll break bread with you and everything. And he can talk with you and be with you, because some racists can't. Some racists don't even want to deal with black people. Trump will deal with black people, but he doesn't respect you. So Trump is like, Platform Plan. Okay, sure. But my thing, though, that I find funny is where is the rage? Lil Wayne. See, Ice Cube is different. Have you listened to Weezy's albums? Is this guy like Common or Talib Kweli or something? So where is the disappointment that, oh my gosh, Lil Wayne, how could you go with Trump? Why? So, okay, let me confess to Hitman with this. So, Hitman, your thoughts on the whole Lil Wayne goes with Trump and he has now let down the black race?
Malcolm X put it correctly, and you just mentioned parts of it. Like, Malcolm X has a whole point about this. One of the things, though, you got to consider with the speech that Malcolm X said this in a debate when he was talking with some reporters, but in an interview with some reporters, and pretty much the thing is that who are they to represent us? They do not represent the black people. Black race. They are not our leaders. And he even said it this way. He basically said it this way. Are white musicians white leaders? Are celebrities, people who are influencers, people of that level, white leaders? No, they're not. For the black community, they shouldn't be our leaders. They really shouldn't be. They shouldn't be our voice. And it never should be like that. I get that. I get the whole point that we've had a lot of disadvantage, but they're not qualified to basically speak for us. One of the things I do feel that's a little bit dangerous about it, though, is that setting the narrative that these people are our leaders. Because you got to think about the background of someone like Lil Wayne. It's he's gonna, and you're gonna bring a whataboutism with Cardi B. Here's the deal. The deal is it doesn't matter either way. It's fucking bullshit. It's bullshit either fucking way. It doesn't matter whether it's on the left or on the right. And that's one thing that also Malcolm X talked about, because he talked about Malcolm X also talked about liberals in that same sense.
White liberals.
Liberals.
This isn't a left versus right thing. And as Hitman just said, Who cares who Common endorses? Who cares who George
They're
Clooney
whataboutisms.
endorses? As in the whole point of this whole thing is, see, I'm using the Lil Wayne example because obviously people
It's in
want
the news right now.
no. People want Lil Wayne to endorse Biden because the whole plantation Democrats thing. Hey, if you're black, you have to be a Democrat. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. That's what Biden said. So we're using Lil Wayne as an example because of people's rage. Nobody has any rage against Common or Quavo, but the
Bring up that
general
comment
point
from
is
Josh Byrne at the bottom, the one about nobody cares, because that also brings up another point there. Because the thing that makes this because there's actually underestimating that point. No one cares about the celebrity's opinion, but besides their fans. Here's the deal: a lot of the fans.
what if they have millions of fans?
I mean, the thing is that a lot of these musicians have millions of fans. Now, go down to Martin Rosario's comment right below that. I'm not posting a double standard. I'm just stating facts. The other problem too is that one of the people. What makes it even worse for Trump is that he's a sitting president. He's a sitting president of the United States, seeking re-election versus a politician that's on the street trying to become president. So it's a bit more dangerous. It has a bit higher of a voice when it comes from an actual president versus a potential candidate.
Okay. So let me bring in LTA. Go for it.
Yeah. Quick thing. The first thing is that the simple just getting, when it comes to politics, getting the quick black celebrity or the celebrity in general, because I saw that Lady Gaga tweet yesterday where I was like, is this lady on coke?
Was that?
That was the weirdest thing I ever seen in my life.
That is the weirdest thing I've seen in the last 5 years. What the heck was that?
But simply just the way they pander to black people, or just minorities in general, which is simply like, we'll get the biggest rap stars and entertainers as though people over the age of 25, they're not black people over the age of 25. My mom does not care or even know who Cardi B is at all. It means nothing to her. And but
Cardi B has millions of fans.
Yes,
these celebrities have millions of fans, and we know that most people, let's keep it real, are stupid and they're sheep. Let's just keep it real.
No, but I don't think, because last election, I honestly don't think that the celebrity endorsement is as valuable. Not the entertainment endorsement is as valuable as politicians make it out to be. I think Obama was different, but in general, the celebrity endorsement is not as valuable as people think it is. That's one. Because also it's also like an insult to just black or Hispanic people's intelligence, that because this person sings and dances and has your same skin color, you must now move in lockstep with them. That's one. Two, I think the actual issue with and the way, and even the way Malcolm X framed it, I agreed with it. But I'm sure as Malcolm X got older, he grew. His stance on it would have been a little more nuanced, because the idea that there's any single person positioned to represent people with the same skin color is just a crazy proposition in itself, right? We can have people from communities who represent different ideas in communities, but if you've ever grown up in a black community where it's all black people, you do know that they don't all think the same. They don't all have all the same ideas. They don't look at life the same way. And I think when we look at things as he represents us, we've already lost, because who is us? We're being grouped based on our hue. It's a crazy proposition. It's silly, because there's middle-class black people who look at life differently from poor black people. There's people who are children of immigrants who look at it differently. There are religious black people who are more conservative. And it's just like, this is how we get the black vote. If anyone's coming to you with that and saying, because y'all share skin color, this is how we convince you to move and do anything, they don't respect you as an individual. They don't respect your intelligence. So when liberals and Democrats do it, it's crazy. And I think Malcolm X, later in his life, came to that conclusion about simply just the idea that that blackness would solve any like crazy racial problem. He understood that there are black people who are flawed. There are black people who are selfish. There are black people who are greedy. There are black people who are evil. And I think that we need to position it simply. I think once a politician frames anything as this is what black people need to do, he's insulting your intelligence and he doesn't respect you. And we should more demand respect that way by ignoring those type of things. Yeah.
No,
And
but
with my last point with Trump, like Trump's a previous point somebody made about Trump giving policies, Trump silently and quietly is doing a lot of good things for conservatives. Trump, for the most part, is enacting conservative things. The thing is, a lot of times Americans don't really care about these things. Like when Trump is trying to get rid of like H-1Bs, which is like a work visa for outside people to come in and work. He's trying to get rid of these things. If you're born in America, you don't even know what an H-1B visa is, and you don't even care. But if you are someone who is invested in having only American people have jobs and you're on the right wing, getting rid of an H-1B visa is something that Trump is a conservative blessing. Attacking Planned Parenthood, the justices that are in place. Trump is loyal to his base, his conservative base, and that's all I have to say.
so, so before I comment, because just remember Malcolm X, one of the best things I learned from Malcolm X and just reading his book, and one of the revelations I've had in the past few years is liberal white people aren't your friends. I thought they were. Naive me was like, hey, Republicans bad, Democrats good. Democrats, hey, these are the guys that are like black people. Republicans, oh no, right wing, bad.
No, liberal whites are the people you have to look out for the most.
I disagree.
Because
No.
Hear me out.
Wait. But real quick, and I'll let you go NBC, because reading Malcolm X's book, what's the autobiography of Malcolm X, great book. Because what he said in the book was that, you see, the guy who is racist and will just call you like a nigger in your face, at least you can see it. It's those people who will smile in your face, bring you in, laugh with you, but these guys, they don't respect you. They're insulting you behind your back, and they are just coaxing you in, coaxing you. Basically, it reminds me of, like, for me, one of the best rap lines of all time, from Prodigy, Mob Deep Hell on Earth. So it's like, rob a land like white man plans to overtake your whole street while shaking your hand, is the thing of where you're being played out while this person is laughing at you and being with you. And the greatest thing that Malcolm X said is that those liberal whites, they're not your friends. Nonsense. You have no friends. No friends.
Can I please address that? When I say I completely disagree. Oftentimes
that's liberal whites are. So you think that liberal white people are
just like the generalness of that statement? We often like to make reference to like the first half of Malcolm X's life. We like post Mecca. No one likes to reference the things he said about unity, about his understanding of how his myopic view of blackness and how Islam plays into that was skewed by a made up religion by the Nation of Islam. And I think that as Malcolm X grew older, he understood that it wasn't simply just a black and white issue. If we look at white liberals, if you look at the history of white liberals, they're white liberals who've given their lives for the cause, literally given their lives. And I think that the idea that positioning the white liberal, like Malcolm X said early on, the southern political person is a wolf and the northern liberal is a fox. Sure, in a general sense, you can position that some way because they'll be like, we want you, we will love you and we care about you, but we don't want you in our neighborhoods. That's what the northern liberal would do. But there are northern liberals and liberals in general who are completely invested in the movement and have dedicated their lives,
okay.
their time for generations.
Wait.
Can I finish?
Go.
Can I finish? In Montgomery, Alabama, where I was doing my master's, there was the pastor there who recently died last week, who was the head of like I forgot one of these Christian denominations, and he was in the midst of Montgomery in the 55 to 65 range, where he was in lockstep with Ralph Abernathy, Martin Luther King, and the KKK bombed his house as well. And we can't look at someone like that and people like that and say, simply because you share the hue of Donald Trump, you are my enemy as well. There should be a level of like intellectual dissection, not just simply a white liberal is your enemy. We can say that that liberalism and conservatism having only two choices, you can't streamline it and say one is your friend, one is your enemy. But I think we should be a little more like judicious with how we speak about white liberals, as though they're all just smiling in our face, trying to hang us behind our backs. But there are people who are invested in the movement.
Okay, wait. MB, I promise I will come to you. Let me just read this super chat, and I promise I will come to you. So from Ashar, thank you for the super chat. Thank you, bro. It is tough for us Trump supporters to ever go against what a charismatic cult leader says or does. We have sold our soul to the megalomaniac devil. It ain't hard. You have a brain. You have agency. You do what you feel is best for you, because these cult leaders are problematic. They're just people who bleed just like you, who shit just like you, who piss just like you. You having to follow a guy because he raps or they sing or they act, that is you being stupid. You have a brain, and you should not, under any circumstance, follow somebody who's not read, finished school, or done the proper research. I said I was going to come to MB. Go for it.
So, all right. Let me address this. Let me ask you a question, brother. So you say you fully disagree with that statement because you feel that when we're just blanketing every white liberal, and we're saying you're all the same way, and you're saying that we are not taking the time to look at the individual. Is that about the gist of what you were saying?
No, I wasn't saying take the time to look at the individual. I was saying the idea that blanket statement is true it's automatically false based on people being individuals. It's automatically false.
Well, sure, but my point to you is that you are not giving us the respect of even fathoming the point that we could look at individual people and say, well, yeah, there are examples like the one you mentioned, but who am I more likely to meet in my daily life? Am I more likely to meet your pastor or the guy down the road who smiles in my face but votes to keep me viewed as less than an actual human fucking being? Because I'm going to tell you, your pastor is out fucking numbered.
Anomaly.
By a lot.
He's an anomaly. He's an anomaly.
A lot. Yeah.
The thing is, he's not my pastor. He's a historical figure from the civil rights movement.
Cool story, but he's still an individual that was one out of how many? And here's the thing.
Have you
I'm
heard
not
of
saying.
Pride?
No, listen. I'm not saying that there aren't. You're taking it as we're saying that there aren't good white people who are liberals who want equality. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that there are a lot more of Bob, the guy who works in the office with you, who smiles at you at the water cooler, but then makes black jokes on the side. But then when you question his how much he wants equal rights, he gets butthurt and because of white fragility and says, "How dare you? I'm not racist." If you really want to piss white people off, there's no racial slur for them. Just except racist. Call them a racist or question how liberal they are, and they lose their shit. Because
I agree with that.
Because it's a fucking fantasy. It's a fucking fantasy that they've cooked up in their heads because they're ashamed. It's part of white guilt. They're ashamed that their people did this bullshit, so they try to set themselves apart. It's a race to see who can be the most woke even within their own community. My point to you is not that they're inherently evil. No one said that shit. What we're saying is just, watch your back. And it's because personally, I've been bit by this. You can ask Hitman. I've had motherfuckers want to fight me because I questioned whether or not their intentions. Tell me, Hitman, tell them I'm wrong. I've had dudes literally try to fight me over this. I've had people call me a racist because I said that in truth, because of the way they vote and their voting patterns, they are not truly, for everybody sharing the same. Now,
the thing is, MB.
MB, round off your because we have to get to everyone. Wait, LT, because we have to allow everyone to speak. So MB, round off your points. I'm going to go to Tony and then to Corey because they haven't.
No, that was really it. I mean, it's just the point about it is it's like there's truth to it. Yes, pre-Mecca Malcolm is 100% different. Well, not 100, but he's very different from post-Mecca Malcolm. We know this, but you have to also understand pre-Mecca Malcolm was he was the product of a black man who went through the system, right? His brain hadn't been woken up to life outside of America. He was talking about life from the position of somebody in America, a black man in America was a lot of that. That's all I'm saying. It's just, bro, Bob at the water cooler does not think of you the same way that you think of Bob. That's all I'm saying. Like,
all I'm saying is you made up Bob the water cooler. I gave a real person. And you just gave anecdotal, like one by one instances.
you gave
of
one dude out of
who wanted to fight you.
millions.
If I can say the
It's the
freedom
same
riders,
thing.
if I can make reference to many Methodist ministers within the state of Montgomery, Floyd Elfinger, Bob Zellner, I can give you many people who gave their lives to this, right?
And how many black people have?
If of course, but I'm saying if we look at it historically, the idea that Bob at the water cooler, right, is a refute to my saying many people of the white race have dedicated themselves, and Martin Luther King made it clear: freedom. White people are necessary for progress, and positioning the white liberal as a wolf. I mean, as a fox, and not simply looking at it as there are some who are evil and there are some who are good, and not even just categorizing them at all. I think it's just more helpful. I think.
No, I get what 1 second. Give me 1 second on that. 1 second on that. I get what you're saying, brother. What I'm saying to you is we can do both. We can watch our back and still use them to better ourselves. Because being real, all that marching that Martin Luther King did wouldn't have meant shit without LBJ's help. Fair? Because but he had to position himself in such a way that it became politically beneficial for LBJ to jump on that shit. He had to wait for the climate of the country to change. But you don't have to kiss their fucking feet while you're waiting for that to come on. And
of course
you can also say, hey, I can't trust certain people because you fucking know you can't trust certain people.
You can't trust anyone. You can't trust anyone you don't know. You can't trust strangers. I don't
trust people you know.
I don't trust anyone.
Wait. Easy. I'm gonna bring up guys. So Tony, have your thoughts on this, man? Tony, where do you stand on this whole liberal thing? Can you trust the liberal white people? So where are you standing in this whole back and forth?
So I think to MB's point, I think that's where I was going towards stating that Trump is not an anomaly. I think that just because it's 2020 and all of that good stuff, I don't think that the ideology or the thought process behind how a lot of white liberals or white Republicans, how they move and operate, I don't think that that's any much different. Again, those voters who are out there who have not decided on who they're going to go after, it is because liberals, and I use that very loosely, seem often complicit with how Republicans move as well. And I think that they operate under the same stem as far as situating the white family first before minorities in general. And I think that to the point about Lil Wayne, speaking on behalf of Black people and whatnot, I think in general, to my earlier point about a lot of the debates, eventually getting to the point of discussing Black people and Black issues without the moderator not necessarily being Black, I think, again, it postures the whole discussion as if Black people are children and cannot be active participants in the conversations that are being had. And I think one of the most valiant points that were made in the last debate was when Trump made this crazy statement about how no president has done as much for Black people as he has, unless you were comparing him to like Lincoln or something to that point. And I want to say to that, I think it should have brought around the question of why couldn't Biden speak to the fact that the first Black president and the only Black president could not actually dispute that type of comment by Trump. I think that, again, this idea of having celebrity come in and speak for us is based off of this idea that Black politicians in general have failed us at large. Not to say that there are not Black politicians who are working, like Anina Turner and whatnot, but I think that they're very far and few. And most Black politicians pretty much situate themselves as celebrity versus, bringing in policies and writing things. And I think even today I heard this quote that said something to the extent of the world respects those who protect themselves. And I think that in general, again, I'm thinking in terms of interest. And I think that when a Black politician is in, I get it, how Obama said, I'm not just a president for Black people, I'm a president for all people. I get that. But I think in the same token, when these white politicians get in, they are again thinking primarily about white families because that is what is the how can I say it? That is what we sort of send this idea of whether America is being successful or not. And I think that when black politicians get in office, I think that they should be held to a standard of, hey, what did I do for black people? I get it that you're there to support everybody, but if we're going to praise you for being the first black this, or just even having a black face, we should hold you to a standard and protecting us as well. And I think that that is why celebrities are stepping in like an Ice Cube because black politicians aren't doing what they are supposed to do. And until that changes, until we start respecting politicians, or better yet, until black politicians start respecting the black voter, then we will no longer see black celebrities taking more of a stance or being more in the front versus actual political or more black intellectuals.
The problem too is that
Wait. Actually, I'll come to Corey because Corey hasn't spoken yet. So Corey, Lil Wayne tried to endorse Trump. People went crazy. Thoughts on that and thoughts on how people are triggered or bothered by whenever a celebrity supports a politician that isn't to their liking.
I don't want Lil Wayne speaking for himself, much less me in the black community. I can't stand to hear the little fella talk, but I don't like the image it presents for the black community. I think it does make us look weak. If we would follow someone like him so blindly, and just because he did, and I mean it makes us look bad. So I ain't gonna go too far on that. I don't like the way that these politicians, especially 45, I don't like the way they try to use one Negro to control a certain mass of Negroes. I don't like that. We all know that as the field Negro house dynamic of the field Negro house Negro relationship. Don't like that. On the other hand, I feel like celebrities, Cube, for example, stepping up. Hell, somebody got to do it, man. I mean, nobody on this podcast have. I ain't trying to call nobody up. I'm just using that as an example. I'm saying who else? We got to give these cats a chance and support them the best way we can.
But why are people still bothered about who the heck Lil Wayne supports politically? That's my thing. Why is that still?
No, go ahead.
No. So basically, my question is that in 2020, where I think people now have access to information, why do people care about what Lil Wayne says or does, or what Kanye West says or does? Why are rappers this influential? Specifically, a rapper like a Lil Wayne, when you know what the content of his music is.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no answer for that, man. I think you're right. I don't know why his political opinion matters. I didn't vote for whoever the hell he wants to, along with 50 Cent. It's only one vote, I just hope, he doesn't cause 10 more people to vote for him just because they did. That's my fear. So I don't know the answer to your question now.
Okay, I want to now go over to Cube now. Let me just hit this timestamp. So, because I know you wanted to bring this up before Hitman, because I think you said that this is something you want to talk to. So, I've not looked at the Ice Cube's plan in detail, but I watched his interview with Lord Jamar, and also watched his interview that he did with, I think, the Fox Cocktails and everything. So I basically know the basic gist. Here's my thing, and then you guys can then give your 2 cents to the whole thing. For Ice Cube, boom. Whoever's going to help me, helped me. I can't just be like, oh, let's go to the Democrats and everything. Because I went to the Democrats, but the Democrats were like, we're going to look at this after the election, which means they ain't going to address crap. They just want to win first, then, yeah, whatsoever. So it says, okay, the Republicans actually answer to me, but they're doing it to save face and to appear as if, hey, black people, look, we're working with you right now. Because, Ice Cube, you don't honestly believe a Trump is going to really fully engineer that plan. Really. Like, he may do a few things here and there, but it's not really going to go all the way through it because that's not realistic. But my thing is, again, similar to the Lil Wayne thing, the psychological plantation. Why is it problematic that Ice Cube has created this plan and Trump says, okay, I'm going to accept this plan. Now, he may be lying. He may be telling a whole lie. But if one person says, I'll look at it tomorrow, another person says, I will look at it today, even if that person is lying, I don't know whether they're lying or not. But I'm going to take it more seriously the person that says, I will look at your thing today, rather than the person that says, I will look at your thing tomorrow, because this guy is looking at it right now. How do I know whether I'll still see you tomorrow? What if when tomorrow comes to say, oh, no, I'll look at it next week. Oh, no, next month. You're taking the guy who says they'll look at you today right now. But my thing is that Trump he ain't gonna do anything with it. But the reaction to Ice Cube doing this stuff again goes to the point that LT and all the guys were making, which is trying to put black people in this monolith of no, Trump is bad. Boom, boom, boom. He did all of this kind of stuff. He's a racist. He's horrible, and so forth. But sometimes in life is complex. You need to work with the devil. I need to get X. Whatever I need to get to X, it is what it is. In life isn't pretty, and in life you're not going to get X doing things your way. You might have to go through the mud, do a bit of backstabbing, work with the guy that you hate, because all that matters is the end goal. So, Hitman, your thoughts on the whole Ice Cube scenario with his contract for Black America, how that was received by him working with the Republicans, allegedly?
I mean, it's just like anything on the streets. When you feel that certain avenues aren't working for you, your avenues are limited, you're going to go to what works and who's the first person that's willing to help. It may not be the right place to get it, and they may not have your best interest at heart, but that's pretty much the way I see this as. Because, I mean, do we really think that the Platinum Plan is really going to have great effects for the Black community? I'm going to say this. We don't know. I'm not going to say...
I do know. No, it's not.
But the thing is it going to have the level of effect that we need? Which that I will outright say no, because I don't think it has the level that we need. It may provide some improvements here and there, but it's not going to give us what we need. I think at the same time, I think Ice Cube is endorsing this, because what he's doing is that he's pushing liberals, and he's pushing not liberals, but he's pushing the Democrats, the Democratic Party, to actually do something. Because I mean, the fact that like he had to resort over to fucking Trump, it's gonna actually have to. Whenever you do something like that, that's going to force the opposing party's hand to actually do something. Mm-hmm. It's really more of a thing like, get your hand, like if you really care about us, get your head out of your ass and actually help us, rather than this whole like, oh, we're going to think about it. No, you do something now. We want you to do something now, or we're going to go somewhere else.
Okay, so you don't agree with the calls of saying Ice Cube sell out? You sold your soul to the devil. You're not the guy we thought you would be. You said you would never work with Trump, so now therefore you're just going back on your word. You don't agree with those labels that were thrown at him?
I mean, you can look like with Lil Wayne. I can look at it as selling your soul to the devil, because if you look at his pattern. If you look at his pattern, you could say, hey, he's selling his soul to the devil. Now, when I look at Ice Cube and look at like what Ice Cube posted before that, but like a few weeks before he's talked about Trump, like the big thing was that basically he's doing this because he was trying to put a fire under someone's ass. And now go refer to Martin Rosario's comment he just posted. Now, I mean, this guy obviously clearly doesn't know the whole thing about the Great Switch. Can we get this guy on the debate, because I really want to roast his ass.
No, he was hides, man. He was hides
about this comment. But at the end of the day, the greats, people want to deny, conservatives want to deny the Great Switch, basically associating the Democrats with the conservatives. I mean, associating the Democrats with the Dixiecrats of the past. I mean, we know the parties changed in the '60s.
That's that's 100% like disingenuous. Like come on,
People like
man.
that should be ignored, man. You don't even address
Seriously,
those
like
comments.
what?
You don't dignify.
I really
criticism.
want to bring him on the debate so I could roast his ass.
No, you don't
That's-
dignify.
no, but that's so
he's
dumb.
he's just being ignorant. If you don't know the history, we have nothing to discuss. If you think that's what it was, then that's what it is, man. Because if he doesn't understand that, then there's nothing to talk about.
Word
Because
up.
that's, but I mean, but with that still being said, the Democrats still have. I mean, the Democrats really have to do something because right now they are failing. They are failing to listen to us. If they really want our support, if they really want our help, they need to really step up and actually like listen to the demands of the people. I mean, yes, and they listen to some of the demands, but they're not listening to all of our demands, and they're not taking the right, and they're not taking the right steps.
But how? And then I'll go over. So, but just last thing for Hitman, how likely do you feel Ice Cube's contract for Black America will be implemented in America at any point? Hitman.
Oh, say that. Okay, going back to Ice Cube. So
basically, the question is like, how likely do you think that contracts will be implemented in America if either Democrats or Republican are in power on Tuesday?
I think it's gonna Democrat or conservative, Democrat or Republican. I think it would be implemented the same exact way. It'd be because I mean, there's only so much you can do. There has to be because because just like we said, the president is the president of all people. He's not president of the black people. He's not president of white people, but he's president of all people. So really it would have to be really hitting it would be implemented similar to the Platinum Plan. It's a matter of how true to their word would the politicians actually follow to the plan. And that's where things get muddy and get messy, and funding doesn't hit the places where it needs to hit. Bottom line, it's really improving urban areas. I mean, urban areas which are mostly where minorities live, blacks and Hispanics. And at the end of the day, making sure those areas have enough economic opportunity so that they can advance, that their infrastructure is safe and that their infrastructure is good, so that businesses can go there, invest more money in there, and then make those places very good places to live in, and at the same time make the places affordable.
Okay. LTA, Ice Cube, thoughts on his contract for Black America? How likely do you think that thing can actually be a reality that can be implemented?
The thing that somebody pointed out, which is very smart, was when we talk about these, like, Trump has been in office for 4 years. Why is Ice Cube now, 3 days before the election, now running to Trump and running to these? You could have asked him last year. You could have asked him the year before.
Well, he said
you
that
could have asked him when he first.
He said he was pushed because no. Okay, in fairness to Cube, he said that the George Floyd thing was a trigger and a catalyst that made him go ahead and put his forth. So it was a particular event.
That's unfortunate. He should have been kept. There's lots of bad things that have happened to black people for the past 4 years, and George Floyd is the one to open up. That means you need to step out your mansion. That's unfortunate. I don't think that's like a real reason. Yes, one black man got killed in a very nasty way. Black people have been getting killed in nasty ways by law enforcement for a very long time in this country. So I don't want to hear that. I think, again, sure, he felt like the spirit to push forward and be progressive or whatever, or aggressive about helping black people. But Trump is just using him for a photo op to help him win. Because, you could have asked Trump this for this. These are things that Trump could have talked about 6 months ago, 10 months ago. Trump actually just implemented a plan that's going to limit HBCU funding for the rest of time. And HBCUs are like integral to young black people. young black people who have parents who've gone to HBCUs, all kind of stuff. So I think what Trump is doing what he did in the last election, where he's simply just saying, which was the craziest thing I ever heard a president say was, "What do you have to lose? America's done you dirty for forever. What do you have to lose?" And I think just like all the other celebrities, good for them. I consume your entertainment, and you provide me entertainment. I give you the entertainment on the entertainment. What you do outside of that, I'm not concerned about, because honestly, Ice Cube, Lil Wayne, I do not really I don't really value their intelligence that much, because
Damn.
they're people who dedicate their lives to reading, writing, studying,
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
the level of like peer review and all these type of things that people dedicate their lives to doing. And someone, because they made Are We There Yet, can walk to the front of the line and get things done and get the ear of someone. I think we should discourage that in general.
But
So
but but
I,
people
I
like
just think it should
famous
just be
people,
ignored.
man. People like famous people, and I no, you are right. And
That should just be discouraged, because there are people like Sandy Darity who have detailed plans about how black people can get reparations. He teaches at Duke at University of North Carolina, or Duke, one of those North Carolina schools, and it's someone who's dedicated his life to research and education and teaching and explanation, and he is not going to be at the front of the line. Instead, they'd rather have Kevin Hart and Charlamagne the God and Ice Cube as the people who they want to speak to and they want to get ideas from.
Charlamagne the
And
God.
and it's like, we people who are invested in this issue should be like, let's ignore these people, let's ignore them, and show the politicians that we would like a more intellectual, a more like respectable a source for you trying to solve the ills of minorities. Why Jay-Z is not going to solve the ills of minorities, the people who dedicate themselves to this.
Jigga
And
what?
I think
Jigga
that should be
who?
more important.
So I don't think that's. I don't think that. I feel you on that, and you're right. I just don't think it's because of anything inherent with black people. I think it's down to tribalism. People feel comfortable, or feel that they feel comfortable with those people because they've consumed their media for so long.
I agree. We have to discourage that. I agree. We just need to discourage that.
But Roland Martin made a good point last week where after he was roasting Lil Wayne, he said, Harry Belafonte, he pressed Ice Cube on where the hell have you been, Cube? And Cube was like, I was doing me. I was doing my thing, meaning he was doing his music thing, right? He wasn't doing politics. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until he realized that nobody else was stepping up that he said, well, let me, like Corey made that point earlier, right? But, Roland made the point that there's a point where a celebrity of any color needs to back the fuck off. And once you've drawn attention, used your platform to draw attention to a cause, step off. He said Harry Belafonte marched with Dr. King, but realized he wasn't going to tap dance us into freedom.
Thank you.
But he used his reach to the regular folk in the black community to point to Dr. King. The problem that we're having today is that we don't really. Yes, and they're pointing to themselves to increase their own celebrity and creating a damn feedback loop instead of saying, "Hey,"
without doing any of the research.
Yes, and they're not picking up a damn book. And then, but you have the brothers like Common who does read, like avid reader, right? But makes a 2-second TV spot and that's it. Doesn't do what the brother right here did, which is point you to scholars, black scholars, and say, increase your knowledge as I have. Read the works of these people, these peer-reviewed studies. Read this shit. They don't do that. That's the part of the problem.
So I think the biggest problem is something that we're pointing to, but no one's really mentioning here. Yeah, we talk about all these books, we talk about all these scholars, but where's our Martin Luther King right now? Where's our Malcolm X? Where's our our fucking Marcus Garvey?
Wait.
Anybody.
Real quick to that, and I need to come to Tony and then Corey, but Hitman, and this is something that my brother said, which is very true. Why do you need a leader? Why? Why must you have someone to look up to tell you what to do?
It's not
Okay.
exactly.
No. All I'm saying is we are living in the most in a time where information is the easiest to access that there's ever been. You can very easily educate and research yourself, but you're being lazy. You're being lazy because you want this famous person, this trendy person, this viral person to be like, oh yeah, that's true. No. You can listen to him now, verify. Is what he's saying true,
I'm
or
sorry
is it crap? So
I'm sorry to
having
say,
to need a Martin Luther King and everything, that's lazy.
but
That's lazy.
I'm gonna actually jump in and say something. This is the reason why conservatives are having an easier time controlling their masses, and why liberals and why like a lot of these groups out there are having problems controlling their narratives. I mean, like people like Antifa and fucking Black Lives Matter, why they're having issues because they don't have a leader. I mean, the thing about it is that it doesn't this trend the whole point of leadership that transition throughout time. It doesn't matter what time we could be in the future where shit is like where you can get information directly plugged into your brain, exactly what you need, but you're still going to need somebody that's going to lead you in the right direction. You can get all types of information, but if it's not the right information, it's not going it's not going to mean anything. If you get information to take steering you somewhere, it's not going to lead you the right direction. The thing is that we at the end of the day, you're always going to have followers and you're always going to have leaders. And it only takes one person or a group of people, maybe like a committee of people, could be 30 people, but those 30 people are there to basically lead millions into the right direction.
Okay.
Billions.
Tony.
So I want to say that I'm very proud of what Ice Cube has been able to accomplish. I think that in general, people are looking at it as if he's the author of the contract versus actually being the money steering this versus being the face of all of this. To LTA's point about having some of our scholars actually back some of the data and whatnot, if you look at the contract itself, one of the primary authors of it was actually Derek Hamilton, who works with Sandy Darity. So I don't think that he came into this, unaware of, his inadequacy to speak to what's actually needed for the Black people, especially with working with one of the top Black economists, Derek Hamilton. I also want to say that in terms of where Ice Cube has been, um, he has been silently funding the reparations bill that just passed in California. So again, I'm very proud of where he's been, what he's been able to accomplish on behalf of Black people, on top of getting this out into the forefront. And if it takes him doing this, because we've abdicated the responsibility of our Black politicians, who, by the way, should be our ideal Black leaders. Like I think that in the past, we had the MLKs and we had the Malcolm X's because there was very minimal Black political figures, representing for us, or on the debate stage and things of that nature. But now I think that we are at an all-time high of having Black political figures who should be speaking similar to Ice Cube. But again, if they come in with this idea like Obama, of, well, I'm not just a president for Black people or just a representative for Black people, I'm a representative for all people, without giving concrete promises to Black people, I think that that's the problem, which is why so many people, again, more so Black people, are hesitant to go for the Biden ticket, because Kamala flat out said that she was not going to do something specific to Black people. She was just going to do something that was going to eventually help Black people. And I think the problem with that is when you have Biden who comes in and says, well, I'm not going to read this contract outright, but then he says within the first 100 days that he is going to help solve the DACA issue and get immigration, in the forefront and all of that. And I think that the reason why Trump's stance has been so resounding with not just white people, but even now, some minorities, primarily Latinos, who are sort of split between Democrat and Republican, is because this idea of putting America first, I think, has been lost with American politicians. This idea that America is, is all great, all powerful, almighty, and yet our economy is not what it once was. And I think that that is what's sticking with Trump supporters. And I think that that's what people should be very concerned about. And then also in terms of, saying Ice Cube, like he's an Uncle Tom for meeting with Trump or whatever, too. Hitman's point about, not just resorting to the president, I think that what Ice Cube was doing was actually doing what Biden prides himself on doing, which is reaching across the aisle. Because eventually it's going to take both Republicans and Democrats to get any of these policies pushed through in general. And to LTA's point about Trump taking away money from HBCUs, I'm not as familiar with that because I was under the impression that he just ensured HBCUs money henceforth without having to come in annually. And he stated that within the last debate, and there was no retort to that. So I'm not really sure where that data is actually coming from. And I will say that I think that in general, what I took issue with the contract in and of itself, or more so the letter, there was a part that talked about like Black responsibility or something like that. And it read to me very like, oh, well, Black folks, if we get this, we got to shuck and jive and do what we got to do because, we got a responsibility. Let's start cleaning up our neighborhoods and blah, blah, blah. I think that was unnecessary to put in there. I think that it goes without saying that once we get the resources that we need, once we get the respect that's due to us because of our historical place in the country, then we will then rise up self-esteem wise and we won't act in certain ways. I think that poverty creates certain attitudes and behaviors that we are not just outright admitting to ourselves. And there's also several points in the Black contract or the contract to Black America where it says something like, oh yeah, help us, but then also help Native Americans. I didn't really like that per se, because again, if the contract is going to be called a contract for Black America, let's just focus on Black people. Again, that points to me that we can't just specifically ask something specifically for ourselves. We always have to include somebody else. Unless everybody else gets something, we can't get what we want. And I don't think that that's how Latinos operate. I don't think that's how Jewish people operate. That's not how Asian people operate. They go in there with their own interests. And again, the quote from earlier, the world respects those who protect themselves. If we're not coming in with our interests at the forefront and working towards that goal, why should anybody else care? And I think that that's what's so important about this Black contract. And again, I think that there were several points made about like, oh, make sure that Black people can get loans and that we're respected. Again, we're omitting the major problem, which is that the American government is not enforcing the same rules that it has to protect the rest of the citizens. We're not being treated as full-blown citizens. They already have the financial committee that Maxine Waters is the chairwoman over. If we're not going to hold her accountable, let's not go begging to Biden or Trump to, get these things situated when she's the chairwoman and make this contract about Black America as if it's not a Black woman sitting there. Or let's not act like there's not the credit bureau that Elizabeth Warren created. Again, regular citizens don't have these issues. This is a very Black thing. And again, I think that until we take that seriously, until our politicians take Black voters seriously, we're just going to be treated as children in general.
All right. Corey, round us off, man. Cube and his country for Black America and the backlash.
Yeah, I heard somebody say something about it made me think about what he said on the interview with Roland Martin. Q, like I said, he's not the author of this. I mean, he did make himself available, in fact, on the show, at least the one I seen anyhow, to work with other people. And I think there were 2 or 3 people that had joined in on that broadcast that said, yeah, holler at me after the show. Basically told him, holler, get with him after to get off the show or whatever. So he's been open to working with, Black politicians, scholars, in our community and whatnot. I think he's done a pretty good job at saying that. I don't know who put that out there that he was. I think initially, that's what people were thinking, like, oh, Ice Cube just wrote this in his living room one day. Like, no, it wasn't him. He's putting the money behind it, which is cool. And he even admitted that. He said he wasn't the best in politics, and this is new for him at this level, so he needs some help. So I thought that was, commendable, respectable move on his part. Unlike, say, he's not trying to be like a Lil Wayne kind of figure, I don't think. I can see where somebody would probably say that, but him going straight up the middle, Black community, in my opinion, is political bastards anyway. So I mean, what you got to lose? Me personally, I can give a damn about Democrat or Republican. Who's going to do for the community? and us in particular. I'm digging what Tony just said because I said the same thing. I think MB and I may have had a private conversation about it. Man, I'm tired of, we had to bring, Indians and everybody with us just to get civil rights back in the day. Man, give me something by myself. It's time. Shit. You owe me. Shit. Bring my money.
Okay, so let's just put a final full stop on this one. So look, man, Tuesday, we'll find out what's going to happen. Hopefully, we do find a winner and this doesn't drag on. So all I want is, since we all have everyone here, a simple thing of what you think will happen. So either Biden landslide, Trump landslide, Biden edges, Trump edges, or we don't find out an answer and it gets delayed. So for me, I believe I'm sticking with Joe Biden wins by a landslide. Hitman?
I think Joe Biden wins by a narrow margin on the electorals. I think he'll win. I think he'll win by a significant amount on the popular vote, but on the electoral, he'll barely win it.
Okay. LTA?
Yeah, similar to Hitman, Biden wins, destroys with the popular vote, barely wins with the electoral college.
Tony?
I think that Biden will win the popular vote and Trump will win the electoral college vote.
So
that's a Trump win then, Tony.
So you're saying that's Trump wins the electoral then?
Exactly.
So that's a Trump win. Jesus.
So what he said was what he said, MB.
It would be no different from Bush. I mean, these things happen, right?
Bush and Gore, right? And then when it went John Kerry. Jesus Christ.
Yep. It happens. And again, it would not make Trump an anomaly. These things are reoccurrences. There is nothing new under the sun. That's all I'm saying.
I think the voter turnout is an indication that it might be different.
Well, no, voter turnout would be an indication of it being different if one vote mattered in the same way, if it carried the same weight. But because we have the super states, the swing states, that's not the case. So all someone has to do mathematically to win is carry the swing states. But my point is going to be similar to Tony's. I think that we're going to see a landslide victory for Biden on the popular vote, and Trump's going to win the electoral vote. If by some happening I'm wrong, you're going to see them try to take it down in the court, because you've already seen the Supreme Court this week trying to strike down drive-in ballots.
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah,
and
in Texas. Yeah.
And if you want to feel really scared, 3 Supreme Court justices today worked on Bush Gore, the recount. 3 Supreme Court justices today had a hand in that fuckery. And every lawyer who worked on that case either has a judgeship somewhere small on the circuit, a Supreme Court judgeship, or has had a very lucrative career as a private law. We're talking people who were just grabbing the damn coffee at this point back then, including Amy Coney Barrett. She was carrying water on that case and is now a Supreme Court judge. If you think that they're not taking care of their own because they're doing dirt, and they say, hey, you do this dirt and I'll take care of you, 20 something years later at this point, right? 20 something years later at this point, she got her judgeship on a lifetime appointment to the highest court in the land because she wrote her name on a piece of paper when other people wouldn't. I'm just saying. So there's more power and money behind this and we're arguing about this shit like it's not already decided. Just, keep in mind.
Okay.
But I can't wait to see what the 2020 dumpster fire brings to us in a couple of days.
All right, so Corey, what about you, man? How do you think this is going to go down?
Biden popular, Trump electoral. And it's going to be a shit show from there, pal. Like me saying, let this motherfucker see what else going to bring. This is going to be something.
Okay.
Something.
So do you think 50 was trolling, or do you think he was really worried about his?
No,
Obviously trolling.
his ex reminded him that when he used to talk shit when he used
his white blonde. Oh, I mean, my God.
Chelsea Handler. Yo, no, you gotta understand something. Chelsea was the one to smack him upside his head and say, "Negro, was you crazy?" Chelsea, bro. But Chelsea, you gotta understand something though. Chelsea's, she's that white chick, right? She fucks with black dudes, but she's that white chick. And she's taken to LTA's point, she's taken a lot of shit for her support of the black community, right? But she still overstepped a bit, but she wasn't wrong. she turned 50 back to Curtis real quick.
Which just shows you how much of a chump 50 Cent is. That's my thing. Where it took Chelsea Handler to sort of renew his, Chelsea, oh my gosh, now I can see the lights. Then 50, it shows that you are truly a loser. It just shows that you're truly a loser. So say, since Democrats blamed Russia for Trump, I wouldn't be surprised if Republicans blame China for Biden winning. So do you think China are involved in this election?
No.
What about Russia though? Wait, do you believe Russia actually interfered with the election in 2016?
From like trolls and fake accounts on social media, maybe.
100%.
But that's easy. But I mean, we laugh at that, but that's the thing, though. That's like the old propaganda flyers, right? You just get. That's how you sway the minds of the masses. You make them look real. I mean, hell, man, I got a screenshot somewhere on my phone of it was a black dude. He said, and it sounded very real, right? And he was like, "I'm a black Russian bot Trump supporter," or some shit like that. And I remember thinking, I was like, "Wow, he really just told you what he was right there." With all the fake accounts that they so-called, the supposed fake accounts of black Trump supporters and stuff like that, that could easily be, that's digital warfare there.
Okay, so let's actually end with this, and I think it's something that Valvena said a comment before. Do you think that we're living in a time, or have we always lived in a time where people can't debate anymore? As in, once they hear that you're doing something, they don't even want to discuss with you. So, for instance, hey, I'm supporting Trump. We're no longer friends. How could you? Okay, well, listen to why I'm going to support Trump. No. That's the buzzword. You support Trump, you're a coon, you're a loser, you're a seller. I don't want to speak to you anymore. You're not black. You're a fake person. You want to be white. You are an absolute disgrace to the black community by voting for Trump, because don't you know what he stands for, what he did? But you supporting him, boom. Because people always bring up this whole thing, which is crazy, because he did it. What's it called? The Central Park 5, where he put out an ad calling for the 5 kids to be given the death penalty. When
it's not just an ad; it was a whole page.
And
he paid hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to do it. When they were exonerated, he said, "Well, they're guilty of something. Otherwise, why were they in the park at night?"
He did that.
And he also used to hire primarily Hispanic maids because he said it made his guests feel more like they were at home.
Jesus
his words.
Okay, no, MB, but let me ask you this.
I'm from New York, bro. We remember all this shit because I grew up with this. Like,
me too.
Wait, MB, let me ask you this though. So, if knowing all this stuff, because I don't know whether this is true. If it's true, it's great. If it's not true, let me create the scenario. Your best friend, close friend, one of your best friends that you've ever known, and he tells you, "I'm voting for Trump."
Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. My best friend's a white boy from Mississippi. I don't give a shit.
Yikes.
I don't. Here's the thing. I see what he does on a daily basis. I see what he does for the common man, right? It doesn't matter what color you are. That man would run into a burning building to save you and your family, because most Americans are like that, right? Now, a lot of people will vote for Trump for whatever reason. I have friends who aren't talking to their parents because their parents vote for Trump. I have friends who their parents aren't talking to them because they're voting for Biden. It's fucking stupid at this point. Like, pretending that they're not the same at the end of the day is that's the illusion. But
because no. Because you see, this is what I'm trying to explain to people. See, Trump isn't Mike Pence. See, Mike Pence,
That
that's the
motherfucker
real
is
deal.
evil. He's
You see-
evil.
You see, Mike Pence, I told
That's
you, Mike
right
Pence.
wing. That's
You
right
see,
wing.
That's
Mike
not
Pence-
even right wing, bro. That's evangelical
Mike,
right
no,
wing.
Mike Pence is basically, when they make this, he's like the powder. When you like pancake, he's the ingredients you use to make those kinds of people. So he's like the prime mover. Trump is an opportunist. You see, put it this way: put Mike Pence in a room full of black people, he'll feel very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. Trump will feel right at home in a room full of black people, right at home. He'll be fully relaxed. Trump is an opportunist. 100%. He is a businessman opportunist to the core. So it's like Trump is racist the way that a lot of white people just have that basic racism. It goes back to the point that, see, that's the point that I was trying to make to you, LTA. This isn't like, of course, I'm not saying that every white person is racist or every white person is against you or so forth. But the point I was making about liberals, because at a point, Trump was a liberal. Trump is a liberal. He is left wing. He is using this because this was his best opportunity to become a populist president. Because based on his personality and his character, he was like, this is an opportunity. This is a gap in the market. And if I play my cards right, I can win, which he did. Trump, really to the core, truthfully, he's more left than he is right. So when I say about those liberal people, it's those people who, they are friends, they'll smile in your face and so forth. Will they really go the full length? Those white guys that go the full length are an anomaly. They're a dime a dozen. They're not everyday people. So most of those liberal people, they want to feel as if they love black people. They want to feel as if they want with people, but they're not. Like those fake guys in Hollywood who are like, let's stand step and step with our black brothers and so forth. Do you really think that Jennifer Aniston respects black people? Really? Really? Do you think that any of these white actors respect black people? Really? Really?
They're virtue
No, they don't.
signalers. Virtue signalers.
Because it makes them feel good. And people always like to do things that make them feel good. There's a difference between something that makes you feel good and do you really believe that?
The thing
When
about
the chips are down, will you really do that? No, they won't.
I mean, you got, at the end of the day, you've got people who are doing it behind your back and people who are at both sides are being racist behind your back. It's just the way they are racist to you. One side will act like, hey, we're not racist, but they'll use all this, but they'll basically be hyper defensive if you call them racist.
No, and see, this is the saddest thing right there. And EK, they're right. Because black people will still en masse keep voting for Democrats because I think a lot of black people, especially in America, they're still suffering emotionally, psychologically from the PTSD of slavery. And a lot of African American people, not all, but a lot of them who, again, most of the guys on this panel, I know you guys are independent thinkers. So you guys can see through the crap. But a lot of African Americans who are still suffering PTSD of slavery and the system of slavery, what they want most is a white guy that says, hey, I'm with you. That's all they need. I don't need to read your policy. All I want to hear is that you're with me and you care about me. Just say you care about me, white man, and I am willing to die for you. That's the thing. And Democrats know that we are just taking advantage of psychologically abused people. And to take advantage of them and control them, just say that we care about you, we are for you, put the ads, hey, Kamala Harris, come in here, she's black. Even if she doesn't get along with her Jamaican dad and she's closer to her Indian mother. But hey, no. Hey, Kamala, get in front. Black woman, let's go in front. And I'm seeing guys like Charlemagne the God said, yeah, man, a black woman. What? What? A black woman, what? But it's people who, they need this. They need it. And the Democrats are just taking advantage of people who are starving for someone to, hey, it's all right, don't worry, we care about you, we love you.
Do you remember when they jokingly asked Hillary Clinton, they asked Barack Obama with Hillary Clinton sitting next to him if her husband was actually the first black president, and everyone just laughed about it? I remember that. you remember when Hillary said, I keep hot sauce in my purse.
Oh yeah. With the Breakfast Club, yeah.
Yep. And
That was
They
actually
can't
true.
help it. They can't
That,
help it.
that hot sauce thing with Hillary Clinton was actually like a thing that goes back to the 90s. She's like a
no,
hot
I
sauce,
know.
like
Yeah, no,
addict.
she's a Southern girl. So, but I mean, but that's not the point. We know that
But she was saying that because she
saying
was
it,
like, hey, you know.
I'm one of
Responding to a
you.
question.
Cool.
So yeah, so that's so basically that's basically LT. The point is it's very simple. Just watch your back. Like again, my advice to, and this is just from me, even from my experience living in England, which also has its own issues as well, is that, and this is just me. Of course, I've got white friends and so forth and everything, but just for me, and this is just my view, there isn't a white person I trust. I just don't. That any white person I see, I automatically distrust them because
HH, do
I
you
always think that they're
automatically
from
trust black people?
I am, and I mean before, but I am more trusting of a black person than I am a white person. Generally speaking, I am wary of people. But if we're doing like for like, I am more willing to trust a black person than a white person because I always feel like a white person is trying to pull a fast one on me. And this is just based on past experience. White people have said something to me in my face, and I found out that they've pretty much been insulting me behind my back. So you can only live based off past experience. So
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I noticed this in the supermarket today earlier, right? This mask shit has made me realize how much I use my smile to disarm white people. Because when and my girl's laughing in the background, but it's true. Because like when I'm rolling up, I'm not exactly a small person, right? I'm
Oh, yeah,
6'6". I'm well over 300 pounds. I'm a big dude, right? So I've had 2 women today in the supermarket jump when they turned around and saw me behind them. Normally, I just smile and they're like, oh, thank God, right? But with the mask, they can't see that I'm smiling. They just see a big, giant dude, right? I don't get that response with black people. I get it with, in the same market, I don't get that response from black and Hispanic women or men. You know, I'm just saying, like, it's
no.
It's
It's the same
same
with my
reason.
brother. Yeah, it's the same because like my brother is like much like darker skin than me, and he's quite thinking like that. And he says all the time that how they view him, especially a white woman, is like like that and everything. So, and for us, it's just based over perception. Because see, what I always say is this, and this is the key thing I always say to people is that, and something that I wasn't even saying to my Ghanaian friend, and we'll sort of round it off like this. White people they need to feel superior. They will fight to the death to keep that. What's the poor white person that cling on to that? No matter how poor I am, I'm still better than this black dude. Like an example.
LBJ quote.
Yeah.
Convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best colored man, and what is it? And he won't only what is it? He'll give him somebody to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you. He legit said that.
He'll vote against his own self-interest. That's what he was saying. Yeah.
Yep.
No,
just to make him feel better.
So which is why that when people talk about this whole racism thing, and this is specifically for liberals, because okay, a racist is a racist, but specifically for the liberals, those liberal white people, they need to feel superior to you. Yes, they want to help you. Yes, they want equality, and yes, they want black people to be treated better. You're not going to be treated to the same. You're not going to have equal rights to me. You're not going to be viewed the same as me because I need to feel better than you through my white skin. And I need you to come to me for acceptance. The Democratic Party, we are your white saviors. And the sick thing is you have black people who need and they love the white savior story. They will rather jump to a white guy helping them than a black guy. There are black people who I'm sure feel like Bill Clinton was more their president than Obama. Because the narrative of the white man who's black and down with the blacks is just much more appealing than, hey, I'm black and I'm with you. Nah. So the key thing here is, man, white people need that superiority. They will fight to the death to keep that superiority. And they will fight tooth and nail to keep that system and saying, as long as I have this white skin, I am better than you. And I need, and especially the liberal as well. Yes, I want to help you. Yes, I want to be good, but there is no way in hell I'm giving up this superiority over you. Guys, I hope to see you guys on Tuesday nights. We'll do a live reaction. If we have a result, we'll have a live reaction and then we'll hopefully see it to pop up. Thank everybody that has tuned in for this. And guys, we will be back on Tuesday. If Trump wins, man. Oh, man. All right, guys. Peace out, guys. Peace out. Oh, man. Peace, 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 peace.
Later.
Peace.